Let me read to you a passage from the 6th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 39 to 42. It's the Gospel for Friday of the 23rd week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. St. Luke writes, Jesus told this parable to his disciples. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A student is not above his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me take the speck out of your eye," when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly enough to remove the speck from your brother's eye. That's from Luke chapter 6, verses 39 to 42. And what does it suggest to us? Well, it is a wholesome exercise to consider how much of one's inner thought is spent in criticizing others. The average person would be unaware of the degree to which his thoughts are critical and unkind in respect to the defects and limitations of others with whom he works or lives. He is perhaps critical of members of his own family. His thoughts are critical perhaps of those with whom he works, and anger smoulders in his heart. He is angry with people in the past who have been part of his life. Without being particularly conscious of it, in his own mind, he often condemns others. Again, without being very aware of it, to a greater or lesser extent, he would even be happy to see such persons punished with harm done to them, without being conscious of it. Now, our Lord has something to say about this frequent absorption in the defects of others. Listen to what he says. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me take the speck out of your eye," when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly enough to remove the speck from your brother's eye. That is to say, what we usually lack is a sense of our own defects and limitations. We tend to look benignly on them and diminish their seriousness while criticizing harshly those of others. We ought rather treat others in our very thoughts as we would like them to treat us in their thoughts. One of the striking features of truly holy people is that they are acutely conscious of their own faults, their own sins and limitations. And as their lives draw to a close, lives that have been filled with good works and virtue, they primarily see what they have not done or what they have done poorly. They are acutely conscious of their sins, and because of this, they tend to look with forgiveness and mercy on the sins of others, unless of course it is their work to correct them through some special responsibility. You know, one person I think of who exemplified this sense of personal fault was the saintly Catholic Bishop of the London district in the middle and second half of the 18th century. His name was Dr. Richard Challoner, Vicar Apostolic of the London district, and who died in 1781 during his 90th year. All recognized the excellent work he had done and the holiness of his life. You know, when he was nearly 80, he wrote a letter to his old friend, Bishop Horniold, acknowledging the gift of a present from his friend. In his letter, he asks for prayers and writes this: that the time is near in which I shall be called upon to give an account of my stewardship. O dear brother, he writes, for our Lord's sake, earnestly pray that in his great mercy he would forgive my innumerable sins and prepare me for that great appearance in which I have reason to dread the account I must give, not only for myself, but for so many others who through my fault or neglect are walking on the way to perdition. Oh, 'tis a melancholy thing to see the great decay of piety and religion among a great part of our people, and God grant that this may not be imputed to me by reason of my sins and negligences. Therefore I once more beg your prayers. He was very aware of the speck of sawdust in his own eye, and so he was well able to see the plank of wood in the eye of others. He lived with the judgment of God before his mind's eye, and his humility before God was the foundation not only of his love for God, but of his love for others, and his merciful attitude towards them. In those moments of greater clarity, when we see with some greater clarity our defects and failings, we ought to treasure them, those moments that is, and not attempt to escape them. We ought to endeavour to ground ourselves in a deeper humility, for in this way we shall be able to assist others and serve God with greater genuineness. Let us exercise a strict watch over our thoughts of criticism and irritation at the defects of others. Let us correct those thoughts of our own by a deeper awareness of our own defects and sins. Let us remember that, as our Lord's words suggest, our tendency will be to be highly conscious of the speck in our brother's eye while being oblivious to the log, to the plank in our own.